Welcome to the Living Out Loud show with Michelle Wadleigh and Alan Vukas. In each episode, we will explore practical spirituality through inspiring and enlightening conversations. Be a part of our weekly conversation with a rotating cast of speakers, teachers, and authors as we uncover and share spiritual, mental, and emotional tools to help you live your authentic life out loud now. Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Living Out Loud show. I'm Alan Vukas.
And I am Michelle Wadleigh, and I am so glad that you're here today with us as we continue on our journey. And this month, it is all about speaking truth to circumstance. So Alan and I come together to have revealing conversation, offer practical tips, and have a lot of fun laughing. So that's the show. Hopefully you learn something and you laugh along with us. Well,
the tips and trips, huh? Tips and trips. That sounds like fun. Oh, it's so good to see you, Michelle. I missed you last week. I missed being on the show with you last week. You and David. Catch me up a little. What's been the topic so far?
Well, last week the title was hypnotized. Oh my gosh!
Yeah, that's right. Got me hypnotized.
But the fact is that David actually laid out the month because he was the creator of it. So he kind of took us through the journey, the journey throughout the month, which I thought was a great recap of the month's conversation. And it was great. We had a lot of great conversation. It was smooth. It was easy. He was easy to speak to. And, I think we know each other a tiny bit. So there was a lot of amusement between the two of us. So it was actually quite nice. It was a good Wednesday.
Oh.
It is weird being here without you, I must admit.
Oh, that's nice. Well. I was missed somewhere. I love hearing that.
I'm sorry. I want to make sure the audience knows that in August, Alan and I are going to be bringing to you one of our podcasts, but long distance. Well, that seems kind of silly in terms of technology and how everything is in the airwaves. But we're going to be coming to you from the Monterey Peninsula in California at the Asilomar grounds. So that's going to be a hoot. I have no idea where we're going to settle, but we should have some fun doing that.
I'm going to find a link for that. So in case people are interested, that is going to be exciting. And I'm sure David's going to be there as well.
Yes.
David Robinson, if you're not familiar, I was just going to put his contact information here. Just if you missed last week's episode, check him out because he wrote a lot. I mean, this theme this month of speaking truth to circumstances, he's given us some breadcrumbs to work with and to I'm sorry I missed that last weck. But the Asilomar coming up in August, that's going to be about a little different theme. But I'll find that and put that here in the chat. I'm looking forward to that.
Let me give the audience a little bit of history, a tiny bit, in case you're brand new to either Centers for Spiritual Living or to our podcast. Asilomar is a place. It used to be a YMCA or YWCA camp and then a woman designed the place, which is lovely. And I cannot remember her name at the moment, but for many, many years, for decades, it was the place where people practicing the science of mind. We used to label ourselves, I still do, religious scientists. And it was the place where we would convene once a year. And all of the movers and the shakers of the organization, but most importantly, the founder of our organization, Ernest Holmes, he would be there every year. And one of my favorite pieces that was delivered by him, which was Sermon by the Sea, and that was his last talk, and I believe that was in 1967, I think.
Oh.
Is that right or no?
No, I think it was before. It might have been 1957 because didn't Holmes 60?
59. 59 maybe. I knew it was, I know I have it in my mind somewhere related to my birthday, but I can't quite remember when it is. But you're right, it's probably 1959, and I should know that. And Sermon by the Sea, for many of us, feels like a talk that he gave that was his instruction for us to go out and to be the product, to be this, multi-faceted, mindful, conscious being in the world, and to take as many people with us as we can. And, people are always quoting little pieces of that talk, but Asilomar Grounds for us is a very sacred place.
Oh, I mean, I am so looking forward to it.
Right. It's your first time, right?
I've never been to Asilomar. Yeah, it's like going to Mecca, right? It's sort
yes,
of
it is. That's exactly the word I was thinking, but I didn't use it. Yeah.
It is. I was just looking. In that quote, "Sermon by the Sea," one thing that always stands out to me from that talk by Holmes is where, he sort of references here. I'm looking for an actual the transcript. I don't have my Science of Mind textbook with me. It's upstairs. But in there, he does I'm paraphrasing. So I'm paraphrasing Holmes, but he talks about how, the idea of, one person with a changed consciousness can change the world.
Mhm.
Right, one person, and we have evidence of that in all of our spiritual masters and teachers, brilliant minds and geniuses through the years. Their idea, I mean, look, Edison and his wanting to illuminate the world by a different means.
Right.
Look how the world's changed. Jesus. I mean, the whole world's been changed. And so he, in that Sermon by the Sea, he inspires and calls for those who are on the spiritual path to be for something and not against anything, but to practice these principles. And what did he say? Give me 100, give me 1,000. As far as of those individuals who are really doing their work.
People who stand for something and against nothing.
That just inspires me. Can I be for something in such a way that
can I be that person? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where you want to go, and I love the idea of speaking truth to circumstance. And I veered off a tiny bit last week in my Sunday celebration. No surprise there. I'm a veerer. I'm a one who veers here and veers there, and a little bit of a rebel in some ways. But I wanted to speak to the audience, our listeners today, a little bit about speaking truth to circumstance is a really powerful concept. And we have each experienced a number of times in history when a single short statement or a single quote, not the ones that are on all the postcards, but the ones that really rise up. There are people who have said simple things that have altered our lives and our thinking. And so your word, my word, our words have power. They have power. And you created the distinction when we started this a couple of weeks ago, that different from speaking truth to power, because truth is power. We're using the power to speak to circumstance, because if we are all connected, and we believe that we are, if we are all connected, then when I'm speaking of it. I don't have to reach for it. I don't have to demonstrate it. It is demonstrating through each of us individually.
Yes.
So I had a list of some of this, some of the really potent statements that have been spoken over centuries or over the decades. And I just want to mention a couple of them. And
Love that. Yes.
One of the single most famous thing that galvanized a movement. I have a dream. Right? I have a dream. I don't, and I've seen some, documentaries and such speaking to the fact that he didn't even really know what that was going to do. But I have a dream galvanized millions of people to start moving in a different direction. Imagine having the spirit ordained language to create that movement. And were you mentioning it before, the words of Jesus? I don't, I've never been, I don't want to comment on Jesus alive and not live, or white or black, like just the idea of Jesus. If that person existed, face it, the language he used till this day is impacting us. To
Yes.
this day. Another one was, be the change you wish to see in the world.
Mm.
Gandhi said that, and it has taken on a life of its own. Maybe, someone said that this was not the first. Well, I'm sure all of these have been said at different times, but it depends on when it's captured. When Obama said, yes, we can. I remember feeling that and thinking, oh, yes, we can. So my point in bringing this up is simply that we each, you listening, all of us, we each have a voice, and that voice is ordained, not, not by a man, not by a woman, but we're ordained by the intelligence that exists. And as it moves through you, that's how you speak truth to circumstance. And that's just the point I really wanted to make here. Everyone is capable of speaking truth to circumstance, and no one should hesitate. Don't hesitate. It's time for us to be intolerant of unreasonable conditions in life. Our tolerance just allows it to keep going. So I think I've been on I was on a soapbox there, Alan.
Oh, preach.
Well, I want to bring out the teaser, the marketing teaser, and the quote from the Gospel of Thomas, because I'm a lover of this quote. When we find the truth, we will be troubled. Then, being troubled, we will be amazed and will rule over the entirety. The point is, we have to bring out that which we see. We have to bring out that which is, when we start looking, and I know this happens a lot in my classes, especially my forgiveness classes, people start the journey and suddenly they're very much in pain.
Mm.
It's the first part of the journey is awareness.
Right.
We start by revealing what we've been trying to function on top of. And I see this time after time, client after client, student after student. And we've learned to, lovely. We have learned to tolerate, and we have learned to function on top of dysfunction. And I personally think it's time to stop it. It's time to stop. It's time to take our personal power and use it in an impactful way, a truly impactful way. So,
I'm just looking at this quote right here of, when we find the truth, we'll be troubled. And I think, though, that many times when we, many come to spiritual living, they come to, explore spirituality, to find something new, to find something different, because they might already be troubled.
mm-hmm.
Right. They might already be troubled. And I don't know how many times have you had individuals who they find a way of peace, they find a way to relate. And then the next question is how do I not be troubled?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. It's just sort of like,
Yeah.
I'm on my path now, and life is good and it's getting better. And then how do I, I've got people in my life and around me. I look at the news, I see this, I see that, and it just disturbs me. How can I just sort of, really it sounds like they're asking is, how can I put my head in the sand and not notice these things?
Mm-hmm.
And this quote from the Gospel of Thomas sort of gives a little perspective on that, is that really that being troubled is a catalyst.
Yeah.
It's a catalyst. It's an invitation to now, what do we do with that power? What do we do with this truth? How do we?
It's funny. I'm looking at this, and I'm not speaking to this statement as an academic by any means, but I'm looking at it when we find the truth, and yet, to me, I would have put that as a little t, because the capital T for me, when we find the truth, for me, that isn't the part that's troubling. It's the human truth, what we think is truth, what we, you know. So it's funny. I know I can't undo what Thomas did, and I wouldn't try. But just in my reaction in looking at that, there are things in our lives, and I hear people do it all the time. I hear us give power and authority to the appearance of things, to what do you call it, diagnoses, to statements. An example, I recently saw the movie The Sound of Freedom, and now there's a whole, behind the scenes, there's all this controversy about the actor and his QAnon evidently involvement, and what is the right wing blaming that all the Democrats are the perverts and vice versa, and I'm like, people, the fact is that this horrific reality of abuse and sex trafficking has nothing. It cannot be diminished because you're arguing about who this guy is, who the actor is. And I get that you might not like him, and I get that he might be spewing things that you go, what? But it shouldn't diminish the reality. And if you want to know what the reality is, don't look up the website of the movie. Don't look at anything that an actor has associated with. Go and do your own research at the national level and research the statistics, the current statistics of sexual abuse, of rape, of sex trafficking, without the movie, without anything else. And you will be shocked, horrified and shocked. And then the question is, well, now what do I do? And I think that's an individual thing. But in order, so here's somebody's trying to bring out a reality that's the underbelly of our country, and now it's going to get lost in this rhetoric. I mean, come on. So for me, I went in and I started doing my research, and I found organizations that are doing good work. And I remember about 6 years ago, I think it was a Ashton Kutcher, the actor, and he was very much involved in bringing out the reality of the sex trafficking, and no one spoke about that. No one brought it out. They just kind of glazed over it, and I guess he wasn't a character, a questionable character, where people have Henry Cavill, what's his name? I don't remember his name.
What is the name of this movie that you're referring to?
Sound of Freedom.
I don't think I have not seen this.
It's by it's put out by Angel Studios, and my guess is there is a lot of money in there from religious organizations. But here's the fact: separate out the gossip and what you're hearing. Do your own research, because in order to speak truth to circumstance, we have to do our own work and not just get caught up in the fads and the conversations and the gossips. Let us not be that what do you call it? Fragile. Let us not be that fragile. Be strong, and be strong by doing the research. Please do the research. And that's for everything. I mean, come on, the stuff that got thrown around during COVID, that's when we should have been doing this podcast. Was during COVID, because there was such a, all the things that were being said, and all the just I don't know, all of it. It was a rough time as a teacher, and I think you probably would agree with that. People were very caught up in the drama of life.
Mm,
You know,
yes.
so
I was caught up in the drama of life during the
yeah, it was tough. It was tough.
during the lockdown. Here, for those who aren't familiar, who don't know me, so I serve at Concordia Center for Spiritual Living here in Rhode Island, and we're a tiny little state. We're a tiny little state, and little roadie, and love being here. And there were some parts of the country that were much more under lockdown than others,
Mhm.
or who had some rules. And here was one of those here in New England. They took it very seriously. And so for 68 weeks or more,
But who's counting?
yeah, who's counting? Everything was strictly online. Everything got moved on. We were not we our building is not large enough that would have allowed for most of our community to meet in one place,
Right.
and with the guidelines. And yeah, it was just busy. I didn't have time. My head was down. I was working. And while everyone was making sourdough bread and learning new languages and exploring all of these new things, says, oh, they're so free. It was just like, I had to get busy and work. And so I
Yeah,
had a little different, everyone had a different experience during that time.
yeah.
But I'm going to have to check out that movie. I was just looking it up here on Wikipedia and just seeing the sort of a synopsis of it. And
Yeah, and again, too, please, I would like the whole world to be awake about this. And I'm not trying to present any theories. I'm
right.
talking about factual, statistical numbers that you can do easily with any search about these kind of things. And it's ugly. It's ugly. And it's not, and I'm the kind of person, though, I feel very responsible, and I feel like I have to be willing to look at the ugly because we have people suffering. And if I'm just, if I think I could just shut it off and not pay attention, well, what an elitist point of view that is.
Mm,
My spiritual family, who is all, the world, we're all one. And so my spiritual family, if one of them is suffering, I do believe I need to at least be there to be a witness to this. I don't believe in just saying, oh, I don't want to watch it. It's too painful. Mm. People have lived through this. It's like people who don't want to acknowledge racism. Okay, well, you think it's hard? Well, try living through it, of which I know nothing about, clearly. Anyway, truth to circumstance means get informed and don't let Facebook conversations and even podcasters like this, don't let us even determine your reality. Find out what that reality is for yourself, because only when we come together in a powerful way and feeling informed by true information can we make a difference. Can we make a difference?
and there is truth with a capital T, right?
Yeah,
Which
yes,
is
yes.
there is truth with a capital T. So even when we are finding, the truth about circumstances, or what is true, what's the truth? What's the truth about this, that, or the other? I mean, from uh, um, one thing that can keep us from getting out of that back and forth, who's speaking the truth or not, but it's to transcend that and to recognize that there is a power and presence. There is a power and presence
Mhm.
is showing up in and through and as each one.
Yep,
So
yep.
even those of us who may be standing on the opposite sides of whatever the issue may be, there is that within us that is seeking our good, all right? That is seeking our good. We
Mhm.
just may have some differences of opinion on what it requires to realize that. So when we're finding ourselves that, take a step back.
Yeah, well, I have, it's kind of cute, and I see that my husband put a comment in here, so I want to mention he recently participated in this in these singing lessons, which he already knew how to sing, but it just been a long time. It was a fun social thing for him to do, and it ended last night with a graduation and um, a performance.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, it was really.
Is it anywhere? Is it on YouTube or anything that we could see?
No, no, we didn't put. No, I haven't recorded. I'll send
Neil, I want to see it. I want
I'll
to see it, Neil.
I have it in my phone. I'll send it. But here's the point I want to say. At this group, there was a lot of men. It was a men's choir, by the way. Lots of men, lots of older men, lots of older white men. Some people who could barely walk. They had canes and stuff, but there they were singing. Now, I happen to be sitting next to this lovely young woman who was a coach. I met her for the first time. Her husband was actually in the choir with Neil, and then I don't know. I was being a little sassy behind the scenes and making a couple people laugh, so I made some friends. But I turned to her. I said, "It's so fascinating that in the world, like you drive through a neighborhood, who would have known that approximately 50 people men get together weekly to sing and to sing barbershop quartets
Hmm.
music?" So my point here is there are realities under our reality that we don't know what's going on. Some of them can be fun. That there are people who get together for all sorts of reasons, but it's important to reach deeper and look beyond, because it's fascinating what's going on behind the scenes. It's really fascinating. I never would have suspected that. And yeah, I guess I have other circumstances I've recently run into where you just see there's subcultures. Carolyn Mace would have referred to these as tribes, right? We have different tribes. And the important thing about understanding about the tribes is to understand your place in them and what your tribe is so you can identify it. Because Carolyn Mace brings out that, that we are in a tribe because it's safety.
Hmm.
You and I are a tribe in CSL, right? We have a particular expectation and way of thinking where we recognize each other.
Yes.
And so it's all about raising our awareness, folks. It's all about raising, and I don't particularly like the word very much. And I was told on Sunday that it was what do you call it when you steal something from another culture? It was
Cultural appropriation.
yes, thank you. But the word woke, So even though I don't particularly like using that word myself, but the point is we must wake up, and we wake up by doing research. We wake up by listening. We wake up by being intolerant of unreasonable situations and then speaking to that. It's an important thing. Change comes from it true change can't come from the outside in. It's got to come from the inside out. So when speaking truth to circumstance, it's the circumstance of how you are seeing the world and how you are relating to it. I feel like I'm going on. It's okay.
Yeah, well, I'm looking for a quote here.
Okay.
This was a quote about us waking. What does it take to wake up? Right? What does it take to wake up? And this was this was by Susie Kassem. And let me just put this here in the. I'll put this. I'm going to put it in the chat, and I'm also going to put it in the
banner
on a banner here. I thought this was very powerful. Yeah, let's see here. Oops. Too many characters there. But we could just start with there.
We awaken by asking the right questions. We awaken when we acknowledge being spread well, we see knowledge being spread that goes against our own personal experiences. We awaken when we see popular opinion being wrong, but accept it as being right, and what is right being pushed as being wrong. We awaken by seeking answers in corners that are not popular, and we awaken by turning on the light inside when everything outside feels dark. Wow, great quote. Great
Mm.
quote. So I want to give an example of the true necessity of waking up and then healing what our internal healing. For example, I'm one of seven, and I came out of an abusive background. But if I had not found a spiritual teacher when I was young, and found Science of Mind, and found centers for spiritual living to heal the inner landscape of my world, I would use my past experience as a filter to see all of life through. And I wouldn't trust any man. If I had not healed my abuse, I would not be a good human to be out and about. I would be avoiding and speaking harshly and condemning men at large.
Mm.
So the way I speak truth to circumstances, first I heal. I heal the way I hold it inside of me. And then after that healing, then I can begin to see, hopefully, I can begin to see a reality that's not just around my pain. If we only speak, if we think our pain is the only reality, even the conversation I brought up about the sex trafficking in this movie, if that is the only reality, it's going to be a dismal world. My world and our world will be dismal and dark. I have to also equally pay attention to I met this young couple last night. They are from Morristown. They have a son. They have a podcast. They're coaches, and it was just so beautiful to see how many people are out there really trying to break through conditioning and shine light. It's amazing how many people of all varieties are really working to break down the system and find love. I think that's what we're all trying to do, is find love. And here is this young couple, and I think of everybody as young now, this young, beautiful couple, parents, and doing good work in the world. Well, I also want to look at that. So I'm going to look at the ugly, but then I'm going to look at the beauty.
Mm.
And then when I do that, matter of fact, I want to find the name of their organization and just do a shout out for them, because it was such a precious meeting. True Essence Connection is their thing. True Essence Connection, coaches and podcasters, and just lovely, lovely people. So it was great meeting them last night, both Dell and his wife Kaya.
I have, one of the things, so I have talked about, through this month, as far as, because this is what happens. So we do, we look at the world and we see stuff that it isn't working.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There are circumstances. And so for those of us who are on a spiritual path, we have tools and resources and practices and principles that can support us in moving through that, or working with that. Not everyone does. And that's one of the reasons why, like,
Yep.
these podcasters and coaches and even ourselves here, is that we know that there's a different way. There's a different way.
Mhm.
And we've been speaking this month not about speaking truth to power, because truth is power. Power is truth is power. It's the difference between power and control.
Yeah. Mhm.
We confuse sometimes what we think of as power outside of ourselves as power, but it's really just control. The
Mhm.
power, the ability to make change and to do that is within ourselves, and reminding ourselves of that. And so this past week, I just wanted to share how what we were talking about at our center to what do we do then? What do we do when we are still, even knowing that we have power, it can feel powerless. Where do we start? And I'm going to tell the story. And I think maybe David mentioned it last week, but it really resonated with me, and I had fun with it. But it had to do with the story of Durga and Kali. Are you familiar with that? That story?
Me? Not at all. Not a clue. Don't have those words in my awareness.
So for those of if you
Introduction.
yeah, if you don't know, so this is a little bit of an introduction into some of the Hindu stories, or their mythology and beliefs, but the gist of it is that there was a war that was going on between good and evil appeared to be winning. And there might be times, if we look at it, society, we could say, "Oh, it looks like evil's winning. They're yelling the loudest." Or even in our own circumstances, our boss, our boss may appear to be winning, and look at all the people quiet quitting these days. The dissatisfaction. How do we take back our power?
Is that a new term?
Quiet quitting.
Yeah.
Oh, have you not heard this?
Okay.
Oh.
Don't lose your story. I'm going to make a note.
Write that down, quiet quitting. And actually, I think we've moved past that. But yeah, quiet quitting that's a thing. It is a thing.
Oh.
And so good and evil were battling, and they were fighting. And so those good, they prayed to God, they prayed to Spirit, whatever. They prayed to the Divine Mother, Durga. Mother, help us, save us. We're losing. What are we supposed to do? What do we do about this? And Durga, who is the Divine Mother, the mother of compassion, she is the embodiment of mothering. She looked around and she looked at everyone's suffering, and what arose in her was her compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Compassion was the first start, right? Compassion is what began. And out of that compassion, and what is compassion? Compassion is when it is the quality that is universal in all of us to witness and empathize with suffering,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and the desire to mitigate it. That is compassion. Which is different than sympathy. Sympathy, you can look and you can see, oh, that sucks. It sucks to be you. But it is, but compassion.
Would be horrified right now.
Well, I'm just saying, but compassion is really power.
Mm-hmm.
Sympathy is just a passing, fleeting thought.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so with this compassion, so Durga, in her compassion, she looked and she empathized and saw all that were suffering. She saw the wrong, what she identified as wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then she had, and then a desire within her arose to do something about it. And that became so singular within her, that desire to do something about it, that arising from her forehead, and this is a spiritual story. So
bear with us.
Yes, so I'm just saying, but rising from her forehead was Kali, and Kali is a warrior goddess. Became from that compassion arose an embodiment of anger, of righteous anger, that was moved to act. And
Mhm.
Kali then began to take action and shake things up and won the battle. And things got a little out of control. And finally, her husband Shiva said, "Hey, I need to help you stop here and get grounded again." And he threw himself underneath her. And Shiva, being um, an aspect of the divine, could not be destroyed. And when she realized what she was doing, when she realized who and what she was standing on, the truth, that she then said, "Oh," she remembered where she was at and what was hers to do. But the gist of the story is, what do we do in these times when we are witnessing sex trafficking and we're learning about it and we're here doing this and that and the other? Sympathy is not enough
Mm, mm.
to
Yep.
speak truth to circumstances. Compassion, allowing ourselves to go into that space of compassion, of empathizing what others are feeling, what we're feeling, and the desire to mitigate it, allow ourselves to be inspired to then take action. And that action may be fueled by anger. It may be the
Right.
desire to change it. But to me, these are some practical, what do we do when we're witnessing it? Move to find a way to be compassionate
Yeah. Yeah.
first.
God, yeah. There's a lot. There's a lot I could speak to around that, but I want. I want to offer another thing that something I saw last night, a little different, and yet it's about how we get caught up in unrealities. Okay, it was an exaggeration. I have a neighbor across the street who lives across the street from me who's an actor, and we ran into him the other day at the lake. Him and his 4 kids, and he was telling us, he was saying that he's in this episode of the show is Dark Mirror. I've never seen Dark Mirror. It's 6 seasons, and like I feel like it
Oh,
just
yeah.
I feel like it just came across my awareness. I'd never seen it before. So, and of course, I went on right away. I'm like, oh my God, there he is, blah, blah, blah. Okay. But then it caused me to watch a couple of other episodes. But one that was fascinating, they did this episode where they took our need of approval and they exaggerated it grossly. And what they did is they had people walking around in this show, and everything is a one-off. It's not a continued show. And everybody had this little like phone kind of object. And so while I'm talking to you, all of a sudden your face comes up and I can give you 1 star, 2 stars, up to 5 stars.
Oh, I remember this episode. Yes.
You remember this? I had never seen it till last night. And I thought, what a gross but beautiful way of talking about how we are living falsehood so much of the time. And these people would do anything to get those stars, and everybody was lying. It speaks to, I'm always talking about our addiction to being nice and being liked. Well, the only way you got the stars if you put on this false front. And that is where are we in our lives being in that falsehood? Where are we in that falsehood? And so so truth can't exist in a false world. When she stood on Shiva and she was regrounded.
Mhm.
Well, how do we get grounded? What does that look like? And I know Alan and we're always going to say the same things. Spiritual community, meditation, prayer, contemplation, having a really good spiritual book near you all the time, or just a book that tells stories of empowerment. But you and I will always be at the mercy of the appearance of evil. By the way, in science of mind, evil to us is not an entity. It's a misuse of the law. It's a misuse of the law. So when we say evil, that's what we're speaking about. But in order to not be at the mercy of this stuff, we have to wake up. I love that quote by that person that you just put in there. That was, who is it? Susan Kassem. Kassem?
Yes.
Rise up and salute the sun. I'm gonna have to check that out.
What you just said really it sparked that in me, that there is no power when we are looking outside of ourselves for validation or for approval. I mean, because then we're always at the mercy of others' opinions, their ideas, that is not a powerful place to be living in.
Not at all. Not at all. Folks, there's this triumvirate of things that we universally share. I never met a human that didn't share one of these to some degree. It's the I'm not enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy. And then there's varieties, right? There's varieties of that. And there can't be 3 greater lies. Those are lies. And what saddens me very often is how individuals are looking to replace or to not be that when we're fighting against something that isn't even a reality. Those things are not our reality. So we don't have to speak truth to that circumstance because it's a non-starter. It's a non-starter that you're not worthy. It's a non-starter that you're not valuable. And so here we are in all this activity when it's not real. When it's not real.
Right. And so it does invest, and it requires us getting back to what's real, right? I mean, in order to speak truth to circumstances, you need to know that you're grounded in truth.
Yeah.
A Course in Miracles and the workbook lesson number 5 is, I am not upset for the reason I think. I'm not upset for the reason I think. And so am I even clear on what is back of this reaction I'm having to what it is that I'm seeing? It could be our past failures, our past conditioned responses, our biases, our prejudices, our ancestors. I mean, there's a lot of things that keep us from actually standing in the truth. And that's our work, though. Our work is to connect to spirit within and to be inspired by that, to be reminded of that truth. And with that, what did Holmes say, that I alone and one alone I had the quote somewhere, but one alone in consciousness with the divine is a complete majority. Oh, here we go. It's right here. One alone in consciousness with the infinite constitutes a complete majority. Whenever we're triggered, whenever we're having a reaction, then let's pause. Let's pause and see, what are we standing on? Are we standing on in our anger or are we standing on, Shiva in this case, standing on the truth and having a complete majority?
And I always love to point out, Judy gives you her thumbs up. I want to point out too that for those who have children, grandchildren, nieces and nephews with whom you have influence, teachers, and Gabor Mate in the book, the Myth of Normal, has spoken about it in ways I've never heard anybody, about how if we are allowing our children to have only a digital relationship, I mean, we must get our children. We have to let our children get dirty. Literally, and I have to admit, we were, I feel like I did a good job introducing my sons to the world around them in the forests and streams, and we did a lot of that. But my son has taken that to the nth degree, and my grandson, he's always dirty. And I remember as I started seeing this, my tendency was like, let me get a rag and clean his face. But no, he's meant to be dirty. He's 7. His hands are in the mud. His sneakers are disgusting because he's in Mother Nature, and he's taking from this earth all of this beautiful life living experience, which if we're only living through the digital world, we're not in touch. It's too ethereal, you know. I would love to see more and more parents get together and to bring their children and to shut off all electronics in the house. Shut off all the electronics, because that's not our truth.
Not even the parents. How about just us? I'm thinking of myself as I'm listening to this. It's like, when's the last time that I was digging around in the mud, or that I was splashing around in a stream and making, building dams in the mud for this. When was the last time I've done that?
Well, I walked around the pond yesterday. It's my favorite little pond in town. And I look over and I see, because there's a pond and then there's a bridge and then there's a whole swampy area with all these beautiful water lilies. Oh my God, every year. And I see this ripple across the water. And I'm like, what the heck caused that ripple? Well, I go over and look, and there are 2 humongous turtles. What do you call it? Not box turtles, snapping turtles.
Ooh.
Huge. And I videotaped them. And I was like, I feel like I was in this, in this natural, one of those episodes of
Wild Kingdom.
Wild Kingdom episodes. And I'm like, oh man, wow, I'm getting to witness life. And sometimes we'll see the little turtles, and we'll see the frogs and the toads and it's like, oh, life, that's life. It's beautiful. There's nothing that needs to be done to make that more than what it is, but to take that sense of connection, and when you're listening to things when you're listening to news, to return to what's true for me, what's true. Mm-hmm. What do I want to believe? What do I choose to believe? How am I empowered? And I think we have to commit to asking really tough questions.
And go dig in the mud.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm walking away with this today.
Come down on Saturday. We're doing a stream study with my son's old teacher. She's so great. We're taking the kids to a stream, and we're going to be in the mud, and we're going to pick up crayfish. And so, yeah, we're doing that on Saturday.
Oh, that just sounds so, it's like, I'm just sitting there listening. So, speaking truth to circumstances, it's like, getting your hands dirty. That's real.
That's real.
That is real. Digging around in the mud and being out in nature, hugging a tree.
Yep.
I remember last year I had a practice where I would there's this thing called grounding, mm-hmm. and where you go and you stand barefoot on the earth.
Yep.
And I would take time every day. Well, during, I'm here in New England, so 6 months out of the year, you can't do that, because you wake up to 32 degrees or below Fahrenheit, just 6 months of the year. But so the rest of the time here, during this time of year, to go out and to stand on there, because think about it, we come from the earth. We're made of this stuff, and here we wear insulated shoes that keep us actually from connecting to this might sound woo, and I don't know if I'm sure there's science to back this up, but
there's complete science for the things you're saying, absolute studies.
But it just makes sense to me.
Yeah.
That, with my cell phone, every so often I need to plug it in, sync it up. It needs to get recalibrated, right? Mm-hmm. But then to take time to allow myself, like a mobile device, to get plug into the base by just standing on the earth. And I found that to be very powerful and very calming and very to allow that to sync up,
Yeah, yeah.
calibrate with that.
Well,
And I need to get into that some more.
the other day I was walking with my grandson and my son, and my grandson sneezes, and it was one of those sneezes where, like snot is like when you're kids and like it's pouring out of his nose, and we didn't have any tissues, and I looked at him and I took my t-shirt and I wiped his nose, and my son like, "Ma," I'm like, it's his body. What could not be? What's not okay? All right, you can call it gross, but what's not okay? And I've cleaned their bodies, I've cleaned their butts, I've cleaned their vomit, since they were born. Really? I can't just throw my t-shirt in the garbage? So I don't mean in the garbage, I meant in the wash, but we have to label things as natural and whole and then drink of them. When we walk in the forest, and this is why I got cut up or bit up a week ago because all the rain with mosquitoes, but so I'm not actually in the forest as much as I want to be right now. I'm very sad about it because I'm clear. Walking on the forest floor, I know it's medicine. I know there's microorganisms that I'm experiencing. I know that the mycelium is being touched and activated. I know that all that's happening. It's magical. It's magical. And we must get into the woods and into the forest. And even though some people don't like digging in the dirt, like Judy.
I know, Judy. It's all right.
There's other ways of doing it, though, Judy. There's other ways. That's not the only way.
To dig in the dirt. You could just stand on the lawn. Go, you're there in Florida. Find a golf course and just stand on a manicured lawn. That works too. That works too. And so, I think after this afternoon, I'm going to go do that. I'm going to go take a walk outside and spend some time in nature. There was a study that showed that people who spent, it was 120 hours. I think it's 2 hours a month, I think is what it broke down to. If you spend 2 hours a month.
Yeah, you mean 120 minutes?
Yeah, 120 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That people who spent that time or more were happy. It was sort of like happiness could be, there was a direct, correlation between the amount of time that people spent in nature. I think I'm going to plug in. So, and maybe not standing on Shiva, but standing on Mother Earth.
Yeah.
Getting grounded, reminding myself who I am as part of this whole.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? Because we're so disconnected in our heads, but I'm part of this whole. What power this might inspire in me, that I'm not alone. I'm part of this whole thing called life, and it's mine to direct. So it's we are up at that time. So Michelle, where do people go to find you if they want?
Lord have mercy, where? I am at the plannedhappinessinstitute.com. That's my education site where I teach all my forgiveness and shadow courses and other such things. Or I'm also at the Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, as the founding spiritual director. So I'm always available. And on Facebook, I am a Rev Jersey girl, of course. And you know what we didn't do today, and I know we're going to introduce yours in a second, and just once again, like to support the magazine for the Science of Mind magazine, and the scienceofmind.com is where you can get it, order a subscription, and give one away to friends. And what about you, Alan? Where are you?
So you can find me pretty much in Rev Alan Vukas on Facebook. That's where I post, and also if you'd like to listen to us on Sunday, where I serve at Concordia CSL, you can look Concordia CSL anything, anywhere. And find us there. But Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. we stream live, 10 a.m. Eastern, on Facebook. And also, check out my my blog, newthoughtnewlife.com. I am there writing daily now.
Yes, I saw
Um,
that.
yeah, I'm writing daily, and this is a whole new adventure for me. Sharing thoughts about practical spirituality for daily living, and so I'd love to. You can check me out there at newthoughtnewlife.com. So why don't we close this with prayer? Michelle, could you wrap this up?
Yeah, I just want to put that out there too. Please find us on our website and subscribe, and tell your friends to subscribe too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm happy to pray us out, and so feeling very stimulated with this incredible conversation. I simply bless this show. I bless the listeners, and I trust that there is truth and activity in the activity by means of each of us, that we are here together to raise the consciousness of the planet, to find our own freedom, to find our own joy. I call this activity good and very good, and I let this be so, and so it is.
And so it is.
Bless you all. Love you. Have a good one.
Thank you.